Welcome to another episode of The Mark Medley Show. And on The Mark Medley Show, you can expect to hear about anything. As a matter of fact, you can expect the unexpected. That's the beauty of the show. Today's episode is entitled, We Need to Stop Trying to Control Other People. And I'll tell you the impetus of the episode, and that is the Take a Knee protest, as well as all these various calls to take down statues in various parts of the country, whether it's Robert E. Lee, Christopher Columbus, or whomever it might be. As many of you know, I'm sure you know, unless you've been under a rock somewhere or you just don't pay attention to anything that's going on in current events. Last year, Colin Kaepernick, who was the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, started a campaign or a protest that was called Take a Knee. And what he started doing was, during the national anthem, was rather than saluting the flag or holding his hand over his heart or taking his hat off or standing, he would take a knee. And the whole purpose of his taking the knee was to bring attention to how the groups who are considered disenfranchised or minority, as I hate that term minority because as an African American I don't consider myself minority anything, but for lack of a better term, of how minorities are treated in America. I don't believe when he was taking a knee it had anything to do with patriotism at all. That wasn't the intent. The intent was to show how someone could be patriotic in a country that really doesn't care about them. So it wasn't necessarily to show that he was or was not patriotic. He was trying to bring light onto a cause, which was to show how there were groups of people who were being treated unfairly. And that is still the purpose of the protest, was to shed light and to bring attention on groups who are being killed through police brutality, who are groups who are being disenfranchised or mistreated simply because of the color of the skin or their ethnic background or their racial makeup. And then all of a sudden that got turned into a whole big issue of patriotism. Like, how could you as a millionaire be unpatriotic? How could you as a millionaire take a stand against the country? How could you as millionaires who play a child's game, how could you now turn your back on the United States of America? When that wasn't the case. Then later on, as we went through on into this year, we had this whole issue of the various statues around the country, of the statues of those who were symbolic of our historic times. And now many said, well, those statues represented a time of slavery. The statues represented a time where racism abounded. And yes, that may be true. And this is where this may seem a little counter, especially for me being an African American. Personally, I don't believe we need to take down the statues. I don't think we need to be removing statues of Christopher Columbus. I don't think we need to be removing statues of Robert E. Lee or any of the other generals or anybody else of that time frame, because that is what it was during that time. In my mind, we're barking up the wrong tree, because you can remove all the rocks and granite and stone and statues that you like, but if you don't change hearts, it doesn't matter. If the attitudes of the folks who believe in that time frame does not change, it does not matter how many statues you rip down, because the stone that needs to be ripped down is not the stone and granite that's up in these statues. The stone that needs to be ripped down is the stone hearts. So until we begin taking down stone hearts, it won't matter how many statues we take down. It won't matter of the historic figures whether they were racist or not. It won't matter how many they take down. My other fear is what now begins to happen when groups say, well, fine, we're going to take down the Martin Luther King statues. What happens when groups begin to say, well, we're going to take down the Jackie Robinson statues? What happens when they start saying, we're going to take down the Larry Doby statues? Because groups are going to feel they have just as much right to take down those statues as other groups feel that they have the right to take down Christopher Columbus and to take down Robert E. Lee and all the other generals that was depicted for that time frame. So I get it. I understand what the folks are saying about the symbolism. But taking down the symbols really doesn't matter if you have not changed hearts, because the hearts are full of hatred. The hearts are just like those stones those statues are built out of. So our title is, we need to stop trying to control other people. If an NFL or NBA or any player for that matter chooses to sit out during the national anthem or not salute or take a knee, then so be it. That's them. Now, what really drove the thing to another level was when the president now made his commentary, when he jumped into the fray and called them sons of bitches. When he made his commentary along the lines of, the NFL owners ought to fire all the sons of bitches who won't salute. And I'm paraphrasing. But that took it to another level, because I saw something where it said you had about 6 or 7 players who were a part of the protest. And after the president made his marks, it shot up to over 200. We need to stop trying to control people. Because even with that protest, the announcers would have to make sure they make a big deal about who took a knee, opposed to just ignoring it. Let the anthem be played. Whoever stands, stands. Whoever kneels, kneels. Go on about the game. But no, they have to make it their business to point out, which now brings attention. It does exactly what Kaepernick and all the rest of them wanted to do. They've gotten the attention they wanted. Whereas, had the announcers just went on about their business as game as usual and not paid it any mind, but they would make sure. There was one game earlier in the year, I believe it was the Kansas City Chiefs against New England. I think it was the first game of the season, first or second game. And there was one player on the Kansas City Chiefs who took the knee. The commentators made sure they pointed that out. And I said to myself then, see, they should not have pointed that out. The bottom line is, if I don't want to salute the flag, I don't have to salute the flag. If I want to take a knee, I can take a knee. No one can force me to be patriotic. Not to mention, the protest was not about patriotism to begin with. So, if a Colin Kaepernick or anybody is peacefully protesting, because it's not the first time, athletes have protested before for various causes and in various ways. But everybody wants to take this to this patriotism level. Oh, they're going to force somebody to be patriotic. They're going to force somebody to salute the flag. They're going to force somebody to stand during the anthem. Now, I served in the military. I served 9 wonderful years with the Air Force as a part of the Air National Guard as a jet engine mechanic. My patriotism is not questioned. But I am not going to try to force someone else to stand for the flag. I am not going to force someone else to salute. I am not going to force someone else to sing the national anthem. That's on them. That's their choice. People need to stop trying to control other people. If you want to salute the flag, you salute it. If you want to stand for the anthem, you stand. If you want to kneel for the anthem, you kneel. But no one should be forcing you to do something that you're choosing not to do. It's the same with the statues. I may not like the statues. I may not believe all the stories that were told about Christopher Columbus. May not like the fact that the Robert E. Lee statues. And I'm trying to think of the other generals during the Civil War that's all around. But I don't feel we should be forced to take them down either. It's the same premise. Why should cities and towns be forced to take down statues that have historical value, whether good or bad, for whatever they symbolize, especially when the taking them down will do nothing to change the hearts of those who hate in the first place? taking those statues down really doesn't mean anything, to be honest with you, because the hatred is still there. Forcing someone to salute the flag who doesn't want to salute, or forcing someone to stand for the national anthem when they don't want to stand, doesn't mean anything. That makes them a hypocrite. So you're trying to force someone to do what they do not want to do. And you're talking about patriotism when the stand to begin with was not about patriotism. It was about the treatment of those that are in a country. I saw something quoted that said it wasn't about patriotism. It was about making a country a place where people want to be in the country. People want to be patriotic. There are some folks that are treated in such a manner that if they could leave, they would. So I'm with Kaepernick and all those who have their protests going on. They ought not be forced. They ought not be forced to stand. And it has nothing to do with patriotism. I'm, as I said, as patriotic as they come. I've served my time in the military. I've been in the United States my entire life. I am an American. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled all over the United States. But my support of Kaepernick in that particular protest does not make me any less patriotic. As a matter of fact, until the president said what he said, I was not paying the protest too much mind. But I made sure the Sunday after the president said what he said, I made sure I watched the games. So even if I was going to not be with the protest, based on his commentary, I got along with it then. Because I'd already told folks, well, I tell you what, if you're boycotting the NFL because of the protest, make sure you still watch the Little League football games, the high school games, the City League games, because if the love is football, it doesn't matter what level you're watching it at. You just want to watch a football game. So you can go support Pee Wee. You can go support Little League. You can go support high school, junior varsity, varsity, college. But once the president came out and made his commentary, at that point, I made sure I was going to be supporting the NFL. This is the Mark Medley Show. We need to stop trying to control other people. People have a right to think what they think, believe what they believe, and protest what they want to protest and how they choose to protest if it's peaceful. I'm not talking about going out looting and breaking things and tearing things up. But a peaceful protest, such as taking a knee in a football game, let people do what they want to do. Live and let live. I know this is probably an episode a lot of people won't like, and I'm okay with that. On both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the ethnic groups or the races, I'm all right with that. You can follow me on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Wonder Radio, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Play. Subscribe to one of them or all of them. Follow along. You can read my blog, The Critical Thinker, www.thereadingcircleblog.blogspot.com. Appreciate your support. And, of course, you can hear me live on Saturday mornings on WP 88.7 FM radio in northern New Jersey and heard around the world on GoBrave.org.